Welcome back to another Penguin Breakdown, where we're going to be talking about Penguin Episode 2. And pretty much everything that happened during it, breaking down the plot of the episode, what they set up, some Easter eggs and references, plus let's break down that ending, because they set up some pretty interesting stuff coming forward. And this episode just happened to be just another great episode of this series. It wasn't as strong as the first one, and that normally happens when you watch TV. I always find the first episode, if it's a great series, will start off very, very strong, and episode 2 is usually not as good, but it's still pretty good. And I thought the exact same for this, where the acting has been phenomenal. Sophia Falcone is a force to be reckoned with. That craziness she has in her eyes and the way you could tell she's kind of having her psyche break is done fantastically. Plus the Penguin, we know he's the villain, but they have a way of making him look like a sympathetic character at times to make him feel more like someone who's relatable. But then that little evil comes out where you know he's the bad guy, he's the main character, and he's still the bad guy. But to be fair, they are all the bad guys. They're all criminals. We're looking at a mobster organization, and that's what we're going to see here. But the way they do this is just done so well, and I like all the little side characters, the kind of conniving and secrecy that's been going on, and it feels like we're kind of in the mob with them, and I like how it's going down, and how the kind of plot lines are intertwining, and we'll be talking about that as we go into the breakdown, which is now. It starts off with Sophia Falcone in Arkham Asylum, and I thought they were definitely doing a flashback to there, but instead it was her getting red light therapy with helping her deal with her trauma, which was losing her brother, which I thought was done really interestingly because they put her in that jumper that we saw the Riddler in at the end of the Batman, and also had her in that visitation cell that we also saw at the end of Batman with Batman seeing the Riddler. So that's definitely a reference to that, but also showing what her time at Arkham was like, and I'm really hoping we get to learn more of that as the series progresses. What she's really trying to do here, she's entered the world again trying to be Sophia Falcone, and I feel like she's going to be struggling between Sophia and the Hangman throughout the entire series until she finally snaps and becomes the Hangman once more. We might see more of that Hangman comic book look by the end of the series, which I think would be an insane twist for this series to go, but also 100% going that way. Like, I feel like she's going to snap, and she's most likely going to get sent back to Arkham, and I'm hoping we get a little bit of tease for who else is there, like we did in the Batman. But then we pick up with the Penguin going to convince Sal Maroni to work with him and take down the Falcones. You know, the Penguin working both sides, trying to get them to take each other out so that he can rise to the top and become the crime lord. And I really like how they're setting this up, because Sal's going to take the blame for Alberto, while Penguin gets him the drops. All about the drug war that's going on by making it so that they can get the power, the money, everything they want, by also screwing over the Falcones. And I love how it starts off with the plan already going south, like right away, because Johnny Vitti comes in and tells Penguin to get in the truck, the one he wasn't supposed to be into, which just leads to Penguin having to do some dirty work on his own, and then helping Castillo and getting out of there. So kind of making him look like the good guy until later in the episode where the Maroni guy came back because he somehow survived. But we'll talk about that more when we get there, because that already set up a bunch of interesting stuff, and that just completely went into a chaotic mess when that happened. And I love how these episodes tend to flash back between Sophia and Penguin, just giving us what's been going on with both characters. And I really like how they set it up where the operation goes to complete mess, that Sophia's talking about stringing these guys up across Gotham and why they're still out there. It's a reference to her being the Hangman, and in the comics, that's how she had her killings, was she hung them around Gotham. So interesting that they had tied all that into there. And all the pieces after this just slowly start falling into place with Penguin and Sophia, because of Penguin trying to convince Sophia to turn on her uncle, turn on her family, because he thinks that he might be able to manipulate her, get her into power, then take it from her, where I can totally see that Sophia is seeing through him. She knows he's up to something because she is smart. She may be crazy, but she's actually really smart. They're kind of cat and mouse. They're trying to work with each other, but they also both know they're full of shit. And I think it's so interesting how they're doing this. And I might say this a lot during this breakdown because it's done so well. And I do like how you can watch this series without being a Batman fan and kind of just watch a series that's been really well written and also well directed. When Sophia is at the bar and we meet Marcus Wise talking to the bartender, he's a detective from the comics who is a dirty cop who blackmails other cops into doing his bidding. So really setting up crookedness of the GCPD, which we did see in the Batman as well. And I like how they kind of show off that this guy is easily paid off with drugs and money. And I like how when he's trying to get the drugs off the bartender turns around and says,
"Take it up with the Riddler."
And that's because the Riddler ruined Gotham, which ruined the supply chain for all these drugs. But after that, when we go further down into the episode where Victor and Penguin are in his apartment and Penguin has the girls come over, Victor's talking to one of them saying he's from Crown Point, which in the comics was a district that was south of Crime Alley, the place that Batman's family died, and it's also known as one of the worst neighborhoods in the entire city and is ridden with crime and violence, which, because of the Riddler's attack, is now a no man's land, which in the comics there is a story titled No Man's Land where an earthquake hits Gotham. On top of all that, with the district of Crown Point, that is also the same area where in the Gotham series, Sophia Falcone and the Penguin had a confrontation. So a cool little reference to there if you've seen that series. Now, Eve Carlo, who's talking to the Penguin, has already figured out that he's the one that killed Alberto because he needed that alibi. Kind of having another person that could break and let some information out, revealing the Penguin's true intentions, which could make Sophia snap and go after him. However, I highly doubt Eve Carlo might do that, because if she does, there is a chance that she could get killed as well from Sophia. So definitely setting up like more loose ends that Penguin might have to clear up. So Eve Carlo might have a pretty sad ending coming. But I do like how they mentioned the Iceberg Lounge again, because that is the bar that they're running, which is also, you know, the bar in the comics that Penguin owns, which in the show, he does currently run it, but I don't think he owns it because of the Falcones, which means if he takes out the Falcones and takes over, and I'm kind of hoping that he'll get the dock one where he's kind of on the water, kind of like the comics where he's a giant iceberg, which they probably won't go that route, but they might go a boat route, which would be pretty cool as well. After all this, the Penguin goes to see his mother because she has dementia and has been wandering in the streets, and the landlord's been paid off to keep an eye on her, which I do feel like something bad's gonna happen here. They're very focusing on her with her dementia. It means maybe she gets captured by Sophia at some point because she finds out what the Penguin's really been up to. And she finds out that the Penguin had lied to her because at the funeral, he says his mother is dead, which makes sense because he's trying to make sure that no one can have leverage on him. So by saying that his only family that's left is not here, means no one can really hold anything over, which I definitely feel is such a big foreshadow for the future, with his mom getting captured and taken by Sophia, possibly leaking some information as well because of her dementia, but also most likely getting killed because of, well, Sophia being a serial killer and wanting to take revenge on the Penguin. Speaking of the funeral, when they're at the funeral, there are people with the Riddler signs, so showing that the Riddler's influence is still around, like when we saw in the Batman. And that's also when we find out that Maroni's guy is still alive, the one that Penguin shot. And that's where everything kind of turns into a chaotic mess, because the Penguin gets captured by Maroni's wife. At least I think it's his wife. And she's trying to figure out where that guy went. The Penguin puts it back on the Falcones for capturing him, because that's what Sophia did, and giving them the blackmail. Setting up more of that mob war, giving them some ammunition, but also setting up so Vita's probably going to get taken out or controlled by the Maronis and end up being another inside man, so that he didn't get axed by the Falcones. And then as the chaos continues, when the Penguin gives Vita the information about having Maroni's guy, it's all to set up Luca Falcone finding out so that he'd go investigate, figure all that out, and also that gives Penguin time to plant the evidence and try to get him to blame Viti, which obviously does not go well. Victor ends up failing his plan to put the jewels in Viti's car, which ends up making Penguin have to kill Maroni's guy to keep himself safe, which again turns into chaos. This is just Penguin trying to cover up a mess, causing everything to go into panic, because then they find him, they have to search for the knife, and I actually thought the Penguin was going to put the knife in Viti's jacket. I wasn't expecting him to put it in Castillo's, for Castillo to be the one to end up being axed by Luca Falcone. So definitely like a big holy shit what's going on moment, because it was just chaos with multiple people like getting blamed for things and Penguin pushing all the blame off him and making other people suspicious. And I do like how this had Sophia being pissed off at Luca for doing this, because it's all setting up, because Luca tries to push her out of Gotham, and it's all setting Sophia up to take over the family business and push Luca out of it, because her father was the one that was running things and she's gonna take back control. And I do like how during the funeral as well, you had Sophia's family scared of her because of who she is, being a serial killer. Having her cousin's kid come up to her, you could see how bothered her cousin was with that. Just having the crazy serial killer face to face with her child, it definitely sounds like Sophia might be doing some shady shit to her own family, because she even says that it doesn't always end up well for young girls in the family. But I guess with Sophia, some bad stuff happened to her when she was younger, which probably turned her into this serial killer. And on top of that, when they were talking about her killings on the radio, they talked about her killing women, which could also lead back into that. Maybe she killed some family members. So very serious stuff going on in this series, and setting up some probably killings going on for this character. But as the episode gets closer to the end, it really has been showing this entire episode, like I said at the beginning, that Sophia is struggling with her Sophia identity and her Hangman identity. She's trying to be Sophia Falcone, but I feel like she's going to break by the end of the series or halfway through it and turn in to the Hangman once again. But then we get to the end of the episode where Penguin is burying the bodies and getting Victor to lay with them, showing him what it means. Like, what it means to be in that hole, because Victor fucked up, which made Penguin do more work, which almost made Penguin get killed, which is all setting up Victor most likely dying. I definitely think that this is foreshadowing the Penguin betraying Vic and killing him, because the way he set it up in this episode, he's talking about how he was a driver and how he rose to the top, which we know Penguin pushed people under the bus and definitely made it so he could rise to the top by making people get killed and taking them out himself so that he could slowly get to the top where he wants to be. So by doing that and saying that to Vic and then having him lay in the ground for messing up, definitely foreshadowing Vic getting killed by the Penguin so the Penguin doesn't get killed by his own driver. At least that's how I'm seeing it, because there is no way Vic survives this show. I feel like most people are going to get killed during it, other than maybe Sophia Falcone and Penguin. But the way they are changing up the lore and how things are working, I definitely see some people getting killed. And the only one coming out of this, at least alive, the only person I could see coming out alive is the Penguin. It's his show, and I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be in the Batman too. But speaking of that, Sophia at the very end is talking about taking out the old men and taking over the family, and recruits the Penguin to help her on that. I think it's setting up more of keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer, because she knows the Penguin is full of shit. She knows that he's up to something, even though he's been pushing the blame and getting other people to be the fall guy. I mean, she doesn't know this yet, but it definitely teases that she knows he's up to something. And I think that's why she's keeping him close, and he's going to be using him to rise to the top, just like how he's going to be using her to rise to the top. Like I said earlier, I definitely think she's going to end up taking out his mother when she finds out she's alive. She's definitely going to find out before the end of the season that the Penguin killed Alberto, but there's probably going to be a reason that she can't kill the Penguin, and she will take her revenge on the people that seems to care about, which will be his mom and Vic, if the Penguin doesn't take Vic out first. And I think it's definitely setting up a very interesting story with these two characters working together as they try to take over the criminal underworld of Gotham City. And I can't wait to see how they do it and how they set all this up, because so far it's been great. There are 8 episodes this season, so there's just so many more to go through. So let me know, when you watch this episode, were there anything else you noticed that I missed? And any Easter eggs or references to the DC universe that we need to talk about? Thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It helps out the channel a lot, and you get to stay up to date with all my Marvel and DC breakdowns. So I'll talk to you next week when we watch another episode of The Penguin.